So I have had either the best or the worst idea for something to do to my Sur-ron LBX so far. When I bought this bike about 1.5 years ago, it was such a freshie. Everything looked brand new on it. It was so clean. I absolutely loved the way it looked. But over time, these frames take a battering, they take a beating, the paint starts to fade, loads of the paint starts to rub off where your legs rub on the bike, and after 1.5 years, it's not looking so perfect anymore. So that's why I have made a bit of a crazy decision. So I have been thinking of ways that I could cover up the frame of my Sur-ron, and obviously there's a few options. There's pre-made sticker kits, there's custom sticker kits, you could get the bike powder coated, which seems to be a really popular option. But for me, I really couldn't decide on what I wanted to do. I like the idea of a customs graphics kit, but when it comes to actually designing it, I wouldn't have a clue where to start. I wouldn't have a clue what I'd want on the bike. I wouldn't have a clue how I'd want it to look. So basically I've decided that I'm going to try and wrap the frame of my Sur-ron LBX. So we're going to be wrapping the frame, the swing arm, and hopefully the seat brackets if we have enough wrap left. I have absolutely zero experience in wrapping anything. I've never really tried to wrap anything in my life. The closest I've come to trying to wrap something is by putting stickers on the bike. So I'm now ready to dedicate the next however many hours of my life into trying to make this Sur-ron LBX frame looking the best it possibly can by vinyl wrapping it. Let's get into it. So to start the process, I started stripping down things on the bike, and there was quite a lot I actually had to take off the bike to get it to the stage where everything was easily accessible to start wrapping the bike. This involved removing things like the battery lid, the seat, the under tray for the seat, the mud flap that I have fitted to the rear of the bike. I even removed the subframe that attaches the seat to the Sur-ron, again just for the easiest access possible. I guess wrapping the Sur-ron would still be possible without taking anything off the bike, but it just seemed so much easier to me to actually remove all of these parts so we had the best access to get the wrap fitting as good as we could. So we've stripped down the bike pretty much of everything that I think we're going to need to strip down to have the easiest access to the actual main frame of the Sur-ron. So I am going to be starting by wrapping the actual main frame. I really don't know how I'm going to start to attack this. I guess the first thing to do really is hold the vinyl up, cut it roughly to the shape of the frame so it's going to be easier to actually get it into place and get it actually applied to the bike. Then it's just a case of pushing them air bubbles out, giving it a bit of heat with the heat gun and making sure that it's fully stuck to the bike. So I guess without further ado, let's start taking a look at getting some wrap on this Sur-ron. And that is exactly what I did. I started by cutting a couple of the corners off of the vinyl wrap for a start, just so it was the right shape to get it up near the head tube of the bike. Then once it was cut to the right shape, I started at looking actually applying it to the bike. This did take a couple of times of peeling the vinyl wrap off and putting it back on the bike to get it placed properly, but once I was finally happy with it, I then used my hand just to start sticking it down. Then once I was happy with the placement, I took the craft knife and started cutting away. Being someone that's never actually applied vinyl wrap before, I think it was a bit of a brave move to start straight away on the actual frame of the Sur-ron, considering the weird shapes and sizes that come along on the Sur-ron. But regardless, we struggled on for hours to get this job done and get the bike looking as best as it possibly could. Once I was happy with the placement of the vinyl wrap, I then got the heat gun and started to bend, twist and shape the vinyl wrap around the frame. I then spent the next 8 hours plus trying to make this job the best I could possibly make it. So finally, after about 8 hours of wrapping, many burnt fingers from the heat gun, a lot of swearing, a lot of shouting, a lot of sketchy moments with the X-Acto knife, I think the bike is finally done and finally all wrapped up. But before we take a look at the bike, we've got to take a look at this awesome new bike stand that I've got. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen these things already, but this is fairly new to me. As soon as I seen one, I had to order one because it just looked really cool and it was going to make bike maintenance so much easier. But this is a hydraulic bike stand, so it's a stand made for your bike. It's got hooks on it so you can hook the pegs onto the actual stand so it can't tip over, and then it's actually a hydraulic lift stand that lifts up, makes working on the bike a hell of a lot easier, plus it just looks really cool when the bike is actually sat on it. If you do want to look at getting one of these yourself, I will put the link in the description, but this is not advertisement. I just genuinely thought this was pretty cool. So without further ado, let's go get the bike, put it on the stand and take a look at how the wrap looks. So that is the bike all completely wrapped up. There were some bits that I was really happy with when doing it. There's some bits that I wasn't so happy with when doing it. There's a few things I want to go through, like where I got the wrap from, how much the wrap cost, how hard it was to actually wrap the Sur-ron frame, and then we'll also look at things like, would I ever do this again, or would I choose one of the other options to cover up the bike? So without further ado, let's get the bike in the van, go and meet some lads, get out riding, and talk about how hard it was to actually wrap the Sur-ron. Let's do it. So I'll do a few runs of the pump track. We'll talk about wrapping the Sur-ron and how it actually went. So first things first, I actually got the wrap from Amazon, good old Amazon, bringing in the goods. Not going mega hard today, just taking it easy. But considering the wrap was just some cheap Amazon wrap, it was surprisingly alright. It actually wasn't too bad to use. So for 3 rolls of wrap that I needed, which was 300mm by 1000mm, that was enough to cover the frame of the bike on either side, and then 1 extra roll which I halved to do the swing arm. So 3 rolls came to £36. It was £12 each for the roll, and I bought 3. So yeah, 3 rolls was enough to fully wrap what I needed to wrap. And again, I was quite surprised of how good the wrap actually was, considering it came from Amazon and it wasn't professional expensive wrap. And to be honest, for a beginner, for someone who's never really wrapped a bike, or wrapped anything I should say, it wasn't too hard. There was a lot of stuff I was happy with, a lot of bits I wasn't happy with, which is bound to be the case when you've never done it before. So all the kit I needed really was a heat gun to stretch the vinyl wrap, and then we needed a craft knife, or an X-Acto knife as people call it, just to trim off all the extra, and then a few sort of vinyl squeegee pads to actually stick it to the bike. And overall it wasn't really that hard to do. If I had to put in a scale from 0 to 10 how hard it was, I'd say it was probably a decent 8. So the hardest bits to actually wrap was this part of the frame where it comes up either side, and that's because you had to stretch the wrap underneath this groove here and then bring it back flat to actually go up to the front of the frame. That was definitely the hardest bit. Actually pulling the wrap to stretch it all around this part and keep it hot while you were trying to stretch it round was definitely the hardest part for me. Toot toot. So one of the best things about wrapping the Sur-ron, or something that's better than getting a normal sticker kit or a custom sticker kit, is when you wrap it, you can actually wrap around all of the corners of the actual frame. Whereas a lot of these sticker kits that you can buy for the Sur-rons, they literally just sit on the face of the frame, so it doesn't actually wrap around all the corners, go in all the cracks and crevices. So one of the best bits is definitely that you can actually cover the whole frame up. I've even wrapped over the top of the key plate and around the top there. So one of the best things is it covers pretty much everything on the bike. One of the other positives about wrapping the bike is it was actually cheaper to buy the wrap, the sheets of wrap that I used, than it was to buy the whole sticker kit. So a sticker kit normally, for a standard cheap general sticker kit, was going to cost you about 100 quid, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, give or take, normally about £100, whereas I paid 36 quid for the wrap, and then I think I paid another £6 for the stuff to actually wrap the bike with. So the little X-Acto knife that I used, the craft knife, and then the little squeegee pads. The wrap actually came with the little squeegee pads that I used to get all the air bubbles out, and to be honest, it wasn't really air bubbles that was a problem. It was actually manipulating the wrap around the actual frame that was the hardest part. The hardest part was actually getting it all around the bends and the flows of the actual bike. So do I think that a full wrap like I've done would be better than a sticker kit? So overall I think yes, I think wrapping the whole bike would be better than a sticker kit. I guess the differences would be, with the sticker kit you get a lot more choices in customization. Like I say, you can get custom sticker kits, you can buy pretty much standard ones that are just general ones that people have already created. You see a lot of Fox Racing graphics kits, you see a lot of different Sur-ron OEM graphics kits. There's a lot of different custom designs that people have already made, and then you can go on to the really custom ones which you design and create yourself, put the logos on that you want. And if you get a fully custom one, for a decent one of them, it's probably going to set you back anywhere between 150 and 200 quid upwards to get a full custom kit made. So then I guess the bad bits about wrapping the entire bike is it's so time consuming. So especially for someone who's never done it before, I was taking my time with it, making sure I got it as good as I could possibly get it, and I think I spent in total a good 8+ hours actually getting it wrapped to a standard that I was happy with. I made a few mistakes, as I was bound to, cut a few bits of wrap short, so I did have to infill bits and join bits of wrap, which you can't really tell with the nature of the wrap that I've got. You can't really tell where I've cut and joined it, and you can't really see the imperfections, which is good, but there is definitely quite a few imperfections. It's not an easy job. I think if you were to fit a normal sticker kit to your Sur-ron, a pre-made one, it would probably take you a couple of hours to get it absolutely perfect, and because everything's pre-cut, there's not a lot of trimming that you have to do. You might get the odd bit that overlaps somewhere that you might have to trim, but in general it's going to fit on the bike straight away. With wrapping it, it's purely how well you can manipulate the wrap around the bike. And then, like mentioned, I made a few mistakes. There's a few air bubbles here and there, there's a few creases here and there, there's bits where I cut the wrap short, there's bits where I couldn't fully cover the frame. I think overall I've not done a terrible job, but there's definitely a lot of imperfections that are going to annoy me. So then, would I actually wrap my Sur-ron again? I think if I bought some better wrap, some actual really high quality wrap, I think I'd give it another go. I think it'd be worth trying it again, trying to get it better than I got it this time, seeing how the bike looks with a better wrap kit on it. If I was going to buy the same budget wrap again, I don't think I'd want to go through the pain of actually going through the processes, trying to make it look decent, trying to make it look good. I think I'd probably just buy a sticker kit or even powder coat the bike, which is another option. So looking at the bits that I'm sort of not too happy with, or think that I could have done better when wrapping this bike, was I did some cutouts here and here because I couldn't quite get the wrap to actually fold round these bits and then underneath this crease here, and especially this part, it was really hard to get the wrap manipulated and pushed in there and actually stuck down. So I ended up cutting out these bits, which I think I would have liked to have actually wrapped them as well. And then all over the bike, bit like here, if you can see it on the camera, there is a few sort of air bubble sort of crease bits, and again here and again here. That's because it was really hard to heat the wrap up and actually pull it tight over all of these bits. And I think I'm lucky in a way, because it's splint carbon wrap. That's what this wrap is called. It's called carbon splint. It actually covers up these bits quite nicely. If this was a proper glossy wrap, it wouldn't cover it anywhere near as well. And then moving to the front of the bike, this was the hardest part by far to wrap. I mentioned it earlier, getting the wrap actually bent up under here and then going back to flat and actually stuck down on this part was so hard. I think I've spent the most time on this area on both sides of the frames compared to the rest of it. And then coming to this bit underneath here, where the frame sort of cuts back and goes under to where your horn would be, or your horn delete, which I've got there. It was really hard again to get the wrap to tuck under this, bend around there and actually stick to the bike. So I ended up cutting around here, so this bit is plain frame, but that bit of the frame doesn't actually look too bad, so I'm not too fussed about that. I would have liked to have wrapped it as well, but there's a few bits like that all over the bike that I'm not too pleased with, that could have turned out better. But I think for a first time attempt of wrapping, it really did turn out not too badly. I had about enough wrap left over to actually cover the battery, which I think looks really good. I think if I had a plain battery in there, it wouldn't have looked as good. So got the battery covered up, which really helps. And then coming around to this side, so again, on the other side of the frame, I did manage to cover this up, but on this side, I really struggled getting the wrap pulled over and around these bits on the bike. So I ended up cutting off this bit of wrap around this part of the frame, so you can see the actual frame there. You can see where it's been scratched from before. But the majority of it is covered up. Again, I did the cut out here and I did the cut out here when I was wrapping it. I've wrapped over all of the welds on the frame. So normally with a lot of the sticker kits, they go up to where the welds are and they leave the welds on show. This wrap has gone over all of the welds and actually did it quite well. I thought that's where we're going to have the most air bubbles or air pockets, and it actually stuck pretty well around there. And then again down here, I did make a mistake and actually nearly cut the wrap a bit too short, but I did manage to re-stick it so it came round this bracket here and actually stuck solid to it. And then again under here, we did have to do the other cutout just to match the other side. At the top here, where I said it was the hardest to wrap, I ended up cutting it down where the weld goes. I thought that looked the neatest. You can still see the head tube when you're looking for it, but majority of the time you don't really see the head tube and you don't really see that it's not wrapped up there, so it covers up pretty well. My favourite part to wrap on the whole bike was actually the seat frame, the sub seat frame. That was my favourite bit to actually do. That was the easiest and it stuck the nicest. The rest of it was actually a bit of a ball ache. The swing arm wasn't too bad. The main frame was the worst part. So now we've been out and we got the bike pretty damn dirty. I guess it's time to see whether it's the make or the break situation for this vinyl wrap, and to see if it can handle the pressure of this fairly low powered pressure washer. I don't really tend to hold the pressure washer too hard on the frame or any of the electrics on the bike. The pressure washer is mainly to clean the tyres and the wheels, but we'll see how well the vinyl wrap holds up, and this will truly be the make or break to see if this vinyl wrap is going to last on the bike. So I guess first things first, we'll cover the bike in some snow foam, get some of this dirt and grit loosening off the bike for a start, then we'll see how well it cleans up. Let's get into it. So that's the bike all cleaned up, turned out pretty clean if you ask me, but most of all, that vinyl wrap has stayed on the bike. Not once did I see any of the vinyl actually start peeling off the bike. It seems to be stuck and it seems to be planted on there, which I'm really happy about. It's made this whole video and the effort of going through wrapping the whole bike so much more worth it. But guys, if you've liked this video where I covered up my Sur-ron by vinyl wrapping the whole bike, make sure you go down below, leave a thumbs up, comment your thoughts on what you think the bike looks like now. Personally, I really like it. I think it turned out amazing. If you are new here to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button for more content to come in the future. With all that said and done, I'm Matt Francis signing out. Peace.